Welcome to Mighty Married Moms. Join us at our kitchen table twice a week as the Mighty Married Moms, Debbie,
Linda,
Wendy,
invite spectacular guests to weigh in on staying sexy, vibrant, and healthy,
building marriages with soul-satisfying connection, raising happy, healthy, successful kids. Conversations with Mighty Married Moms will bring you closer to the life you really want. Episode 102. Hi, this is Wendy Williams, and marriage happiness is way possible. ConnectAgain.org is very happy to sponsor Mighty Married Moms. We are partners in bringing you closer to the life you really want. Visit us today for marriage boosts at ConnectAgain.org.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Mighty Married Moms. Today we are really excited to be able to introduce you to Denise LaRosa, who is a wife and mother of two little girls who are really cute. You can see them on her website. She founded Mom Talk at momtalkdenise.com, a multimedia platform designed to motivate, inspire, and inform mothers. In addition to being a mom, Denise has a master's degree in elementary education, and she brings that experience along with her gifts of gab and writing to express what so many mothers go through in life and in raising kids. Denise, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you.
So why don't you fill us in a little bit? And it sounds like you've got a great background. I mean, how did you get from elementary education to being Mom Talk on the internet?
Well, you know what, ladies? I wish I had a glamorous story, but the truth of the matter is I found myself unemployed, pregnant with baby number 2, and running around chasing a toddler. So needless to say, I was overwhelmed. Never before in my life have I felt such sheer joy and terror all at the same time. And, you know, you're pregnant. Let's face it, you don't have very many coping mechanisms. You can't chug those 5 cups of coffee. You can't have a few glasses of wine. But, yeah. So, but one thing I could do, ladies, was listen to podcasts. And I'm even an avid reader, but of course, chasing that toddler around and dealing with nausea, podcasts were definitely my outlet.
Yeah.
Much easier to, you know, meld into or mesh into my life. And I had an aha moment. I was finding such comfort and encouragement and peace with these podcasts. And I thought, why not provide that same comfort, joy, peace, and encouragement for mothers?
That's right. Awesome. So tell us about your podcast, because I know I was looking through, you've got some great episodes in there, and people should go check it out.
Thank you. Yes, just like you said, it's designed, ladies, to really help us along this journey of motherhood and motivate us. Of course, we love our little ones, and I hate to even say motivate because it kind of is misleading. Like, of course, we're motivated and inspired, but let's face it, it's a very taxing, very trying, challenging role that we play. It's a pivotal role. It's essential to life, and you know, it takes so much out of us. So the podcast is really designed to help you with all topics that revolve around mothers and women. And I tease people and say, think Oprah for moms. You're going to laugh with me. You're going to cry with me. I'm not going to give you a car, maybe someday, but you know, we'll just travel through that journey, and I provide you with resources, everything from I did an episode on your life, body, and sex after having a baby to married with children, what that does for your relationship, how you can keep the love alive, to dealing with a picky eater or, you know, trying to get some rest and get your child on a decent sleep schedule. So it's really all-encompassing.
I love it. Those are really important topics. And I know you have 2 small children, so you're kind of looking at it from the point of view of a mom with small kids. And you know, I think that's a time in life when people just, because we don't live in the kinds of communities where we help raise each other's kids anymore. A lot of people become parents, and they, you know, maybe they did some babysitting when they were 17 or even 13, but they don't have a whole lot of experience with small children.
And it is overwhelming. Yeah. I remember when baby 2 came along too, I was petrified. I thought, I don't know how I'm going to do this. You know, there's so many different needs. You're so tired and exhausted.
So that's a great service.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I just try to provide that service because I'm in it with you. I always say on the show, let's do this mommy thing together. I'm by no means approaching this podcast like I'm the expert. Quite the contrary. I'm on the journey with you, and, you know, I need these tips and resources just as much as the next mom.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So it was born out of adversity, and here you are.
So on your website, you talk about that very thing, how motherhood doesn't need to be traveled alone. So can you share some ways that we can be there for each other as moms, regardless of what age our kids are at? What can we do to help support each other on this challenging journey?
Yes, Debbie, that's such an important question, because you touched on something that is so true, sadly true. I remember I'm 34 years old, and I feel like so much has changed just in my generation. And the whole neighborhood, and of course I was from a small town, the whole neighborhood raised me basically. And we don't really live in that time anymore where you feel like you can help raise someone's child. It's a lot of people tend to get defensive or feel like they're crossing the line. So one of the things that really is at the core of Mom Talk and your podcast, ladies, is that one way you can travel the journey with others is virtually, which is awesome. I think of my mom and my grandmothers and how, my goodness, if they had podcasts and mom blogs at their fingertips, how much different raising their children would have been. So we're really blessed to live in a day and age where we can literally get help at our fingertips. And what my hope is that you can take that beyond the virtual and actually have meetups. I try to also speak to family support groups and family support centers with the Mom Talk message. And, because we have to go beyond the virtual, it's really at the end of the day that one-on-one that's so important. And also, ladies, I know that you all each in your own element provide coaching. And I think that's also an awesome resource too. So I feel like those are definitely first steps that you can take, is listening to a podcast, following a blog, and building that community of moms around you. I'm blessed that my mom is phenomenal. She is so supportive and such a great resource. And so I definitely lean on her. But let's face it, her baby is, there's some things that are new to her. So, just reaching out virtually is great.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. That's interesting that you're really kind of approaching this from a very holistic way. You're talking about the virtual world, the Facebook world. You're talking about your podcast world. You're talking about real people in real time across the table from one another at these local events. I think that's just great to really have that holistic view, because that's where we all live. We all live somewhat virtually, and we all live in the real world, obviously. So that's great. I really appreciate that approach.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. No. Oh, so one of the questions I had that intrigued me as a marriage coach is that you mentioned when the kids come along, there can be a real challenge to the marriage. What's your wisdom on that, Denise?
Yes, well, I am just going to be my authentic self and just be totally honest with you. I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, so obviously with these new roles, and they're very new, came a lot of stress in my marriage. And as close as we are, we see each other as best friends. There was a very trying time, a challenging time in our relationship. And what I found is when children come along, I really encourage people not to blame the children, first and foremost, to take responsibility. We are adults. We brought these children into the world. And so for us to blame the children who are just angels and they, quite frankly, have no idea what's going on, it's very unfair, and it's misplacing the issue, really, to be honest with you. So first and foremost, I would encourage you to take a moment to take the children out of it. And oftentimes once you do that, you discover that there were underlying issues before those children came. And when you add parenting into the mix, that kind of exacerbates the problem. So first and foremost, take responsibility. Yep. Secondly, I would say to go back to those vows and to that feeling that you had when you fell in love and you married each other, because another thing that I've discovered in life is that we have that big fancy wedding, right? And we're saying those vows in the church or whatever ceremony you have, and then we literally leave God at the altar. I mean, even by the reception, by the wedding reception, we're partying, and it's like, who's got what? But you took those vows with God in your marriage. And so sometimes we leave him at the altar, and that's when you also see issues really come to the surface. And so my grandmother, my late grandmother, as a wedding gift, gave my husband and I this plaque that says "Marriage Takes Three," and it has a poem, and it's in the hallway in our main level. We live in like a split level home, and it's like one of those things where we're walking by it every day, and when we went through that challenging time, we weren't stopping in that hallway to read that and really take that in. So, you know, bring God back into that relationship and date each other again.
Yeah.
You know, just date each other again and stop making excuses. Okay, we have, you know, issues with babysitting. Oftentimes we find ourselves in the home with the kids and kind of trapped. So you know what we did? We actually would wait until they went to sleep and we fixed a nice meal, candlelit dinner, and just kind of had a date night right at the house. You really, when someone's important to you, you're going to take that time and that extra effort to make it work.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
Be creative with whatever you've got, whatever, you know, whatever your time is, whatever your situation is, just be creative and find the time to be together. It's wonderful advice. And I love that plaque too, that marriage takes three.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
And I think it's great that you're giving, you know, a suggestion like wait till the kids go to bed and still put in the effort to have that candlelight dinner, because it doesn't have to be a fancy formal night out somewhere. It doesn't have to be something. I think people often think we have to go out and do something. It doesn't have to be. Something as simple as that. I have found too, and I've been married for 20 years, and I have teenagers now, but that's always been, you know, a rock for my husband and I is carving out those little times, not even going anywhere, but just being together, whether it's having a cup of coffee in the morning, sitting out on the, you know, gazebo or, you know, whatever that is. It's like gold.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Actually, what my husband and I used to do when our kids were really little and we had no money to do anything, was we would put them in the stroller. And well, actually, we'd put them in the car with the dog and a stroller, and then we'd go over to in our case, it was a local college, but it doesn't have to be. It can be, you know, park or whatever. And with our children in tow, we would have our dates. Walking the dog out, being outside is so great for kids as well, and the dog needed it, and we needed to walk, and so those were our dates usually.
Yeah.
And so you do what you can with what you got.
You do what you can. But the overriding thing is actually feeding that relationship.
Right.
And so many times people just go, oh, well, that initial woohoo is going to sustain itself. And that's like buying a plant and going, isn't it beautiful, and never watering it or feeding it or taking it in from the snow or anything, just kind of letting it be. And we would never do that with our children. You know, I'm sure you carve out times like just me and my 3-year-old, and my husband's going to take the 1-year-old and really connect and bond. Or my clients, I'm going to make sure I write them a nice note. We don't think, you know, the other person is just like, well, they're always going to be there and they're always being fed. But no, it takes intentionality. Yeah. It really does.
Yeah. Well, let's go to a slightly different topic. What are some ways that moms and dads can and should take care of themselves, and why is this important?
Yes, I think that's such an awesome question, because especially when you are taking care of little ones, they are so dependent upon you. And so we give so much of ourselves, and then interesting dynamic oftentimes hence, you know, because I think we almost feel guilty, like if we make ourselves a priority, we're like doing a disservice to the children, when it's quite the opposite. I just literally went to get my hair done on Monday, and my husband watched the girls, and it felt so good. So whenever I came home, I was feeling good about myself. I had gotten a little break. So I really encourage parents to carve out time for themselves on an individual level. Also as a couple, yes, that's important, but individually. And I think you need to support each other with that. My husband's awesome. He knows that I like to get my hair done and do little things like that here and there. And so he's like, okay, you go ahead and do what you have to do. I'll watch the girls. And for him, his thing for himself is to watch movies. He loves movies. And so even if he's in the house, we'll just take over, like the girls and I will either go out or we'll stay home but go to another level of the house, and he can have his dad time to himself, you know, his man time.
Awesome.
That's great. That's a great tip. That's a great tip. Really caring about the other person and making sure that they have what they need to replenish themselves. That's really key.
And you yourself needing to replenish yourself is so vital. I think, and women especially, do you think, I mean, I know what you think about this, but women, we're really good at not giving ourselves time to replenish. We're really good at taking care of everybody else.
Absolutely. I see it with my mother, and she would be a little upset if I aged her, but she's 70 and I still see it. And I have to literally, like, with intention, just tell her, Mom, because now she's got the grandbaby. So she's, you know, giving so much of herself to them as well. And I have to tell her, Mom, go to the store, you know, go do something for you, go get a cup of coffee and just kind of relax. So you're so right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know where we learned that from, but it's pretty deep.
Yeah, it is. Really deep.
It comes with the territory.
Seems pretty universal.
Yeah, right.
Not exclusive to us here today.
Yeah,
for sure.
Right.
What do you think? What would you say would be the most challenging parts of being a mom?
I think the most challenging part is that this gig doesn't come with a manual, and we live in a day and age where, yes, there's like two sides to that virtual thing, right? So there's the benefit because you can connect to mothers literally at your fingertips, but then on the flip side of that, it's almost like the mommy wars can ensue. You're scrolling down your Facebook feed and you see what looks like a perfect mom doing these perfect things with her perfect children. And let's face it, you're only getting like a few seconds of like the reality. So who knows, like a lot of my pictures, people will be like, oh, you're so cute. And I'm like, you have no idea what happened like 2 seconds before that picture and 2 seconds after. So I think there's that, that pressure to be a certain way, to be perfect, and there's no such thing as perfect. So one of my favorite quotes I have on my website is by a woman by the name Jill Churchill, and it is this: there is no perfect way to be a mother and a million ways to be a good one.
Oh yes, I saw that
on your website. It's good.
That was great.
I love it.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, I live by that, and when I do talks and presentations, that's the first thing I say, because I have that background, like you said, ladies, as an elementary school educator. And sometimes when I go in to speak with moms, you just see the shoulders raising because they're like, oh, this is this teacher. She's going to tell me I'm doing everything wrong and she knows everything. And I always start my presentation with that quote, you know, there's no perfect way to be a mother and a million ways to be a good one. And when you can really wrap your head around that and accept that, embrace that in your spirit and your heart, it just makes the journey a lot smoother, and you can just be your authentic self. And your best today, I will add this too, your best today may not be the same as your best yesterday or your best tomorrow.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up. You know, I think more so than ever, we are, as Debbie was saying, you know, we're, I don't remember if it was earlier or just now, but because we've been talking a lot, but that we no longer grow up in communities where we're sort of, you know, takes a village to raise a child, which we do on some levels, but it's not like we're helping each other as much as our parents did. I remember spending a lot of time across the street, the neighbors and her mother taking care of us and all that kind of thing, and we don't have that as much. And then in addition to that, we have Facebook, right, and other social media where moms look perfect. They look perfect. It looks like their kids are achieving everything in the, you know, on the planet, and like, wow, you really can feel like you just don't measure up. And you can be anything you want to be behind the screen. So you're right. You know, I think it's great that you brought that up, that it's really a challenge.
Right. It's sort of like Facebook is kind of like, you know, in the old days, you might come to my house and I would show you my photo album. Now, I'm not going to take pictures of my child having a tantrum and spitting on me. I'm not going to take pictures of, but that happens. But on Facebook, it's all about the photo album. Right. Where because it's social media, we have this, I don't know, it's kind of mixed up. It's different. But like I said, it's the same as it's always been. You come to my home, I open my home to you, I open my life to you, I'm going to show you my photo album. I'm not going to open the closets where I've stuffed all the pillows in just before you showed up, or the dirty laundry. Do you know what I mean? So we don't do that on Facebook either. But somehow we think that Facebook is more authentic, the real whole person, but it really isn't. It's no different than if you came to visit me at my house.
That's a really good point.
So I don't understand how we got there.
But if I'm at your house, though, I might be looking at your photo album while your child's having a tantrum.
So you can see my reality.
So the reality is still there, right?
Yeah,
Where online,
right?
It's on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. So anyway,
That's so true.
Yeah. It can be a force for good and a force for tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A new challenge. It's a new challenge in motherhood, right? It's a new challenge in parenting. With kids dealing with social media as well. It's just a new challenge for us all. But a lot of exciting stuff comes with it too, because you are able to connect in ways that we couldn't before too. So it's not we're saying it's all bad, but I'm glad that you brought that up, because I think it's a huge new inner issue for women that we may not be talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Denise, I would love to know, what are some of the things that people write to you about or ask you about at your presentations?
Yeah.
What are some of the key problems that people are dealing with?
Recurring ones that come up, maybe.
Yes, you know what? I think because I'm an elementary school educator, a lot of education issues come up. And some parents, here I am with a master's degree, but there are, no matter what degree, what level of education you've received or what you've received your degree in, it's almost like school intimidates parents a lot. And, and so much has changed since we were in school, and the expectations, the bar has been raised so high. I remember when I was a second grade teacher, I was teaching my children about angles and vertices. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I learned that in like middle school.
Yeah.
So it's insane. And so I think there's that intimidation. And one thing, not bragging, but one thing that I was really rewarded for and recognized for when I was an educator was the homeschool connection. I was really able to connect with parents and kind of put them at ease. And so I think I always encourage parents, and especially mothers, I say you are your child's best educational resource. You are your child's first teacher. And it's those little things that you do that make a big difference. You don't have to have a fancy degree. You don't have to have a bunch of money, a bunch of gadgets and gizmos. The world, look at the world as a classroom. I mean, if you're, using public transportation, you're on that bus, you're looking out the window with your child. Oh, how many cars do you see? Oh, what color are the leaves? And it's those little things that add up to be big things in the long run. So that's been a big challenge. And then things like organization. I had requests to do a show on tips to organize, and that was awesome. That was a really, really good show, and so that was huge. But I think because I'm an educator, it kind of lends itself to me getting a lot of questions in that realm.
About the education,
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, we're just about out of time, but I would love to know, are there like any key last words that you would like to share with our audience, things that your favorite tips or your favorite ideas that kind of resonate with your audience regularly? We'd love to hear about that.
Absolutely. I would just say that you are enough. You are more than enough. And you have been given this gift and this task, this awesome task of raising your child or your children, because God knew that you would be the perfect one for that role, for that specific child and his or her needs. So while you look around at your mother or your best friend or your neighbor, just know that you are equipped for the job because you've been given the job, and just embrace that. And know that, again, like I always say, there's no perfect way to be a mother and a million ways to be a good one. And so just be the best mother you can and embrace that. And your children want you. They don't want your neighbor's, their best friend's mom or even their grandmother. They want their grandmother, but they don't want their grandmother as their mother. I was very close to my grandmothers, and man, they're incredible women. But at the end of the day, I just wanted my mom. And quickly I will add, I had a moment with my daughter where she was giving up the pacifier, and I was up with her all night. This was like chaos.
Yes,
oh my goodness. It was like a nightmare, and just breaking her of this pacifier. And I ended up writing a blog post because there was this moment where she just reached out for me and held me. And I just felt this love that was just unlike any love I've ever experienced in my life. And in that moment, I realized she doesn't need a pacifier. She just needs her mother. And I thought about my mom whenever I was in elementary school. And there was one Christmas, my parents were divorced, I was used to getting a ton of gifts for Christmas. This Christmas, my mom just couldn't deliver on that for whatever reason, financially speaking. And I remember she was standing at the kitchen and she was crying and she was like, "You're not getting anything for Christmas." And here I was, 8 years old. And in that moment, all I wanted was my mom, and I wanted her to be happy. And I just held her and hugged her, and that was enough. I didn't need a thing in the world. So just keep that in mind when you're parenting your children. They just need you. They just need love, and that will carry them on for a lifetime.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know. Very powerful. Very, very powerful. Thank you for sharing that from the heart. That meant a lot. Well, this has been a wonderful episode today. Thank you so much. And we look forward to finding your podcast. And the name of your website is momtalkdenise.com. Is that right?
Yes.
All right, great. So and tune in, everybody. Find that podcast. And if you would be it would be great if you could also tell others about Mighty Married Moms podcast. Go on iTunes and give us a rating and review, and tell your friends about us. And tell them about Denise's as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so this is Wendy Williams from connectagain.org saying goodbye.
Linda Tighe from All Well Breaks Loose.
And Debbie Owen from YouCanRaiseGreatKids.com.
Right. Great. Well, thanks a lot, everyone. All the best. And thank you so much, Denise. It was wonderful to have you. Maybe you can come back again.
It's really wonderful.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Mighty Married Moms. Tune in twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays to meet fascinating and inspiring guests who will help you create the life you've always wanted.
You can find these episodes and special gifts just for you at mightymarriedmoms.com, as well as a link to our Facebook community,
where we continue the conversation around the kitchen table. Please also help share the love by leaving a review on iTunes. We'll see you next time.